So much to talk about, so little time, huh? You know, it'd be easy to, particularly with a group like this, to spend a lot of time talking about what Obama's done, what Congress has done, the foibles, the flaws that we see, state nullification, just telling the Fed, hey, stick it. We ain't doing it anymore. You're not coming down here. You're not going to do what you've done. But you have to own Austin to make that happen. You have to own the governor's mansion to make that happen. You look at the profligate spending in Washington and you say, how can they even consider doing this? $16 trillion in debt. Unfortunately, folks, those ain't the problem we've got. None of those things are the problem. Obama's not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. The problem is the light of freedom is fading in America. That's the problem. This is a time when American exceptionalism is being questioned, even ridiculed. Why? Because we have lost sight of who we are and what we are. You know, for those of us who grew up some time ago, I grew up in the 50s, early 60s, life was different. That was the time when the whole neighborhood would rake the leaves to the center of the street. We'd have a big bonfire. The street would be closed off. We didn't get permits. We had marshmallows and hot dogs, and kids could play in the neighborhood till 10 o'clock at night and nobody worried. That was a time when America wasn't like a Norman Rockwell painting. A Norman Rockwell painting was like America. It showed us who we are, who we were. Sadly, there are very few of us who actually remember those times. There are too few of us who yet embrace what the country was then at that point in time. See, the struggle in this nation is not about politics. It's not about spending. The struggle in this nation is a spiritual struggle. Yeah. Politics is a good cover, but the problem is a spiritual problem. This is the forces of darkness versus the forces of light. And I tell you, frankly, it aggravates me every time I see a television program that begins talking about the moral equivalencies between right and left. There are no moral equivalencies between right and left. What is evil has no moral standing on an even plane with what is right and righteous. But that's the message we get, and that's the politics, unfortunately, that we fall for. We fall for this, I'm left, I'm right. I'm neither. I'm not left, I'm not right. I am dead center in the middle of a constitutional, biblical America. Amen. I refuse to move to the right, to the side of fascism. I refuse to move to the left, to the side of socialism. America was not built that way. We were built on an understanding of a biblical worldview. You see, we knew what was right and wrong because government was an extension of our biblical understanding of the world. Our founding fathers looked and they said, well, there's a simple commandment we see here. Where do we get the right to life? Thou shalt not shed innocent blood. Thou shalt not murder. So every state had laws protecting human life. Across the country, life was sacred. Now, we had one heinous blind spot, and that was slavery, where men were bought and sold like cattle. They were killed, they were bred, they were treated as if they were property. Now, during that time, there's some intellectual debates going on whether blacks could have been freed, whether slaves could have been freed or not freed, based upon the fact that there were taxes and there were duties to pay if you tried to free them. Nonetheless, slaveholders could have done a de facto freedom by simply saying, I grant this person complete intellectual freedom, complete work freedom, complete travel freedom to do whatever it is they wish, even though I technically still have them. But we didn't. And at its height, slavery, by the way, had 600,000 black slaves in America. Interestingly, we fought a civil war to free those human beings. Guess how many died in the Civil War?
600,000.
About 600,000. And yet in this country, we have forgotten what life, liberty, and property mean. Because we have yet another slave class, and that is the unborn. They can be bought, they can be sold, they can be carved up for parts and sold to scientists and to cosmetic companies and to food companies. And they're used as food enhancers in company after company after company. We have now killed 54 million children. If that same formula follows, what will be the consequence to the United States? You see, folks, this is serious business. This is darkness and light. We have been the victims of a propaganda war that we have frankly lost, because information is what now drives our society. But information comes in two forms. It comes in propaganda, it comes in information. The propagandists have been very good at what they do. Very, very good at what they do. They have tried to tell us that you have no right to inflict your morality on me. And I say, well, you have no right to inflict your immorality on me. They say you can't legislate morality. I say if you cannot legislate morality, that leaves only immorality to legislate. And that's the lie we have fallen for. We have misunderstood what politics is. Politics is a thin camouflage for what they're really saying. We have chosen a different God. Yep. You see, every political system, folks, is religious by its very nature. It has to be. As it seeks to shape and control the laws of a nation. It sets the morals and the mores of that country. And as it does, it becomes the religious system. What we have done, what Mr. Obama has done, what so many before him has done, is chosen a different religious system. So now we've got choices to make. You and I are going to have to decide this fall, not how we're going to vote, but who we're going to be. We're losing America very, very quickly. And it isn't about politics. Listen, the Republicans are just as big as scoundrels in many cases as the Democrats. The problem is one lies out of the right side of their mouth, the other lies out of the left side of their mouth, but it's all a lie. And unfortunately, we have bought it. We've devolved into a nanny state. Our founding fathers wouldn't have stood for this. They picked up a long rifle and headed back to Washington, or in that case, New York or Philadelphia. You see, they understood biblical law. The law says, thou shalt not covet. Coveting, by the way, is devising a legal means to take from you something that isn't mine. What do you think welfare is? It's a legal means of taking from you what is yours. What is your money? What do your tax dollars represent? Your labor. What is the definition of a slave? Someone who is forced to work without compensation. So what liberalism really boils down to is very simple. I don't really want to care for you. I don't like how you look. I don't like how you smell. I don't like how you act. I don't like who you are. But I have to somehow convince you that I am compassionate. So what I do is I stick a gun to his head, take his tax monies, and give it to you and say, see how much I care? But this is where we have gone. We haven't secured property rights in this country. Do you ever own a house?
No.
Why?
Never.
Because taxes always threaten to take it. Yeah. Most of the homes that were lost during the Great Depression, most of the farms were lost to what? Taxes. It is the way of controlling the population. You're standing in a church, you've got a 501c3, what are you allowed to say? Oh, I can't say anything about a politician, because I'll lose my 501c3 status. We need to begin again choosing who is going to be God in this country. Is government going to be God? Do we simply elect the God state and move on? Or are we going to become America again? You see, that's the question that faces us this election. These are the laws of nature and nature's God that our founders spoke of. They understood property rights. Listen, even nature understands property rights. Come up to a wolf and try and grab a bone he's gnawing on. He's going to teach you a whole lot about property rights real fast. Look in your backyard when even a larger bird tries to invade the nest of a smaller bird. Even the larger bird learns about property rights, because a small bird will fight tenaciously to defend it. And yet we roll over like has-beens. Government talks about profits being profligate at the oil companies. The oil companies are making 3 cents a gallon, 4 cents a gallon. Government is taking 78 cents a gallon with no investment. So who are the thieves? Who are the profiteers here? That's the point. Because we have lost the biblical understanding of who we are, because we no longer understand how this country was built and how it worked, we've misunderstood our mission. Politics, folks, is real simple. It's a camouflage for everything spiritual that no one wants to talk about. Well, you can't bring God into politics. Then you end up with godless politics. Welcome to the new America. But each of us is going to have to determine who we are and what we are. Are we willing to bow at the altar of a new God? Are we willing to settle for a second-rate America? You see, folks, what's at stake here is the very future of the nation. We're standing with two opposing armies looking over the valley of Megiddo. This is America's Armageddon. There is no tomorrow. If we continue down this path even a few more years, it's over. It's done. There is no turning back. There is no going back and fixing it. When it's gone, it's gone. And if America, the last best hope of the world, is gone, where do we go? To what standard do we repair at that point in time? Because we're not just talking about America disappearing, you're talking about a world becoming a prison planet. There is nowhere to escape to. There is no U.S. shore for Cubans to come to. There is no place for the huddled masses yearning to breathe free to show up at. That's what's at stake in what we do. And listen, it isn't about politics. We need to vote. We need to elect good, solid people. But we also need to understand that our problems are not financial. Listen, our problem isn't a $16 trillion debt. It's a mindset that allows that to happen. We need to begin telling the federal government, if you won't get your act together, we will. We will refuse to let your people come to this state and do what they do. We refuse to let you continue with your federal courts to kill our children in the womb. We are not going to do it anymore. We refuse to go to your federal courts. Your people, if they come down here, will be arrested and tried in our state courts. It's time that we begin taking back that which is ours. You see, folks, this is the time when we're either going to be stand up and counted or counted out. The Armageddon we face is a spiritual Armageddon. We can no longer get by with politics as usual. This is the time to go to the altar of the Lord on bended knee, tell Him who we are and what we have done, and beg His forgiveness, that we might again see the clear light of day, the bright sunshine of morning in America again, because at this rate we are not going to see that. So why are we here? Why is some crazy guy up here talking about such serious things in the middle of a bar talking about a radio studio? I'll tell you why. Because this is a canon. Every Every time we open up a media outlet like this, every time there is a Mel Moss who has the courage and the vision to put something like this together, we have another cannon in the arsenal. It ain't a big cannon, maybe. It ain't Fox. It ain't NBC. It ain't CBS. It ain't ABC. But guess what? It don't take a big cannon to put a big hole in you. And that's what it's about. The ability to communicate to a society, to a neighborhood, to a group of people. Listen, when things get bad, you may be very, very happy that there's a Mel Moss and a radio station and a blog talk radio, something that can keep you informed of what is really going on and not the propaganda that you're being fed. There may come a point in time when this is what you've got. And won't we feel blessed at that point in time to have that little brass cannon pointing squarely down the middle of the valley of Armageddon?
Yeah.
You say, now wait a minute, before you come walking up that hill thinking we're going to roll over and play dead, just want to let you know that we are here. So let them mock us. Let them call us teabaggers. Let them call us every filthy name that they want to call us. But don't let them tell us that there is a moral equivalence between who we are and what we believe and what they are and what they believe. Each one of you has the ability to be that lightning bolt, that flash that pierces the darkness, the morbidity of the left. Because look what they stand for. Everything they stand for is a violation of everything America was built on. We built it on the right to life, liberty, and property. They want to kill children and the elderly. They want to undermine. See, the whole thing is about God. Their God, our God. The God of the Bible, the God they invented. Why is it that creationism is such an anathema to these people? Because it's biblical. It points to the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Why is it everything they do is anathema to that? Because they've accepted a different law system and a different God system. Because every political system is religious by its very nature. We now have a voice here. We have now become the media. And each one of us is our own little media outlet. So tell 10 friends about Blog Talk Radio. Tell 10 friends what you've heard here tonight about spending and about the evils of what's going on. Don't sit home and say, well, I'm going to vote. That doesn't make you a citizen. A citizen is a soldier. According to our founding fathers, every able-bodied man was militia. Be a part of that militia. Our war now is not with guns and bayonets and black powder. Our war now is a spiritual war. And if we lose this war, America, folks, is over. It's done. There is no going back. When judgment falls, it has fallen. We've had the warning shots. Now it's time for that resurrection morning. To come out of the darkness, come out of the gloom, to the brightness that is Jesus Christ restored in the nation. Thank all of you.